This is Patito's Gang. Very somber note for our conversation. Statistics from hell. Every stat that you look at today on Nigeria just frightens. Obviously, the ones that get talked about the most are the ones from the book Brookings study that suggests we're overtaking India as the biggest collection of the absolute poor on earth. But there are others. I mean, Nigeria was celebrating World Water Day the other day, and the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces was saying that the report suggests that Nigeria is the second worst place in the world for waterborne diseases and challenges because of open defecation. It's the second most terrible place on earth for open defecation. Now, all these statistics that keep coming at us, the Millennium Development Goals we fed so badly, we now have the Sustainable Development Goals, all coming from the UN, all after years of talk and plenty of planning and promises of support and that and that and that. Why is Nigeria not making progress? Why are we, in fact, in a position now that people are going to study Rwanda to see what we can do in Nigeria? It began with going to understudy Botswana. I mean, when on matters of managing mineral receipts, we thought, what country in the world is worth watching? We said, Botswana. So we went to Botswana. I said, how did you guys do it? The governor of your central bank, this woman, came here to speak to Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Yeah, how did you guys do it? Botswana Central Bank was set up by Nigerians. So we're going back to ask them how they do what we taught them to do. What's the problem? Yeah, and you can take this conversation to Malaysia. I mean, I've been on delegations, government delegations sponsored by UNIDO to go to Malaysia, and they're troubling the people at Petronas. How did you guys do it? And the guy says, look, one of the fellows we depended on to do these things, a Nigerian called Ibuga. What are people coming to ask us about this thing? You have the people to ask there.
Tell you, Prof, let's even draw it near home. I know of a Nigerian who headed one of the oil majors, the very first one. He had a stint in Ghana. And during the time of Kufo, he invited an opposite number in Total. And Kufo sat his technocrats down and said, why can't you folks be like these Nigerians? Please help us to try and see how we can reorganize our O&G, our oil and gas industry. This same person that I'm talking about was in Uncle Bob's Zimbabwe. And against all odds, he shone like million stars. Uncle Bob would say, well, I know Nigeria is corrupt, but sometimes I know there are shiny stars that are Nigerians. The SDG goals, the 17 of them, like you have rightly said, look at them. The first one talked about zero poverty. The second one talked about zero hunger, no poverty, zero hunger. The third one talking about the issues surrounding education, decent education for. The other one talking about clean water. What has happened, like you said? Mr. President has come out to let the whole world know that open defecations, Nigeria was second from the bottom. Education, 3 million children are out of school.
3 or 10? 10 million.
10 million out of school. And the statistics keep going on. Look at the SDG on decent work and economic development. The statistics have been showing ups and down. Look at the SDG on 10 on inequality. Inequality. The skewness to inequality in Nigeria is such that even the one that talked about consumption, diesel consumption and production, we are hearing that some chemicals are now being used to process. What is wrong with us?
Check this out. Our attitude about statistics here in this country is what really bothers me. You know why? For some reason, these are people, highly intelligent people, PhDs, knowing fully well that you cannot be a PhD or professor without going through research. We start research. Statistics is born out of research. And yet, when they bring out statistics that doesn't favor us, we discard it. I'm talking to the government now. We discard it and say, no. It wasn't like that. We need to change that attitude of statistics is meant for us to build upon. If I come to you and say, listen, Nigeria, we are operating open defecation, guess what you do? You now begin to look for ways to make sure that you put it in place, public toilets and all that. So it is not every statistics that is being thrown at us that we want to fight about. You don't need to go far. Step outside this studio now, talk to 2 or 3 people. You will be surprised. You get all the statistics you need about Nigeria, whether we are poor or whether our children are out of school or not. The attitude has to change. We need to begin to look inwards and then stop fighting institutions that have spent time, money. Polio. Are you aware that there was a time Nigeria was the highest in polio? Until somebody like Bill Gates, Jimmy Carter and co. came up with and said, listen, I think we can produce a vaccine that can take care of this. So I personally take statistics very, very serious because it's, please.
I'm thinking whether there is any place worse than what we have in Nigeria in terms of statistics. And come to think of it, in all indices of development, which one are we less than 10 from behind? Which one? Is it hunger? When they are saying now that we are second, in terms of poverty indices, various ones, out of school, everything, many of them were second from back. The ones that we have done well are the ones that we are 10th from back. And if you go and compare hell, I'm sure hell will be able to have some that are up to 10, second, third, because these are where we are. And why are we there? No audit of specific issues. We budget money, we budget hundreds of millions. Now, today, and we have policy somersaults. You go and say you're feeding children in school. When children don't have teachers to teach them, they don't have desks to sit on, they don't have chalks to write on, they don't have lights to power the classrooms, and you're feeding them with billions, which you have designed to enter into private pockets. You go to our medical institutions, you pump in billions, and when you get to the federal and state agencies, remember when you say billions, you're even talking only of the federal. You're not looking at the state. You're not looking at what they are doing in the primary health care.
That feeding, yes. I subscribe to that. Let me tell you why. Because I see it as a welfare policy. To get to it. However, when they don't have a teacher, yes. However, no.
The journey of 1,000 miles starts by taking a first step.
You're very correct. Like I said, I agree on that. But the way I'm coming on this is look at it in this way. Ikedioha, is that his name? The former came on national television at one point, and he said that shocked me. He said that in Imo State that they don't have up to 20 math teachers. Okay. And I said, excuse me, yes. Have you ever heard that before? And this man began to realize statistics that shows that actually the teachers weren't there. But having said that, okay, we need to bring this in home. Based on the point that he have raised here, is a very serious point. our government attitude towards statistics has to change. We need to begin to take this in serious and begin to interrogate why are people... It's
not been all bad news.
Yes.
The sixth SDG, talking about gender equality, I'm happy that affirmative action has moved it from 15% to 25%. That is positive. And right now we are looking at 35%. Great. On infrastructure.
Have women in government. That's part of the development index we're looking at.
Now,
I think that we will pause for some women invade this place and deal with this gang of non-women.
especially these two.
Yeah. We'll go out and hear from the streets. When we come back, really, how do we achieve the great escape without getting some things dealt with?
When the government is seen that way, it will be reduced. We don't want people that are just striving to get there.
Really sad. However, it also brings up the urgency of what we need to do. It's sad on so many levels, and I'm just using sad as an understatement, that Nigeria, that is resource full on all levels, should be in a situation where close to 90 million of our people are living in abject poverty. It really tells us that there's a lot that we need to do. There's a lot that we need to do in our country, and there's a lot that we need to do together. We need to really come together and harness the power of partnerships across all sectors and across all silos. We're still in a situation in 2018 where everyone is trying to do what they feel they need to do without any systematic, coordinated, structured effort in making things better in Nigeria. The only way it can happen is through the harnessing of partnerships, the power of partnerships, co-funding, co-investing, non-for-profit organizations and social enterprises that are really doing good in our community, or coming to do something that's really improving the social sector, but also in a way that also brings them profit.
So this is the pedagogy of the determined. Our teaching approach in CVL is to ask everybody who has come to learn something about leadership to ask themselves what kind of world, what kind of company, what kind of society they'd like to see, and what kind of knowledge will equip them to provide the kind of sacrificial giving of self for the good of others that will lead to the synergy that will enable them get to that destination. So this is the very base model of how we teach leadership at the CVL.
Bane of the crisis in our economy is lack of positive leadership. CVL is working assiduously to impact other stakeholders to ensure that we get the leadership question right.
Leadership affects every aspect of our lives, from our homes to our places of work to our society as a whole.
What is special about CVL leadership management training? Our focus is solely on leadership and how it helps performance. Our unique selling point is based on our teaching method for 3 levels of staff in organizations.
We encourage you to register your employees for one of our training programs today.
We're back. We've heard from the people out there, and the question is, how do we go forward, recognizing why these SDGs even matter? Why does the United Nations spend so much? The objective of United Nations is essentially to have an orderly world. A couple of years ago, a professor at Princeton University, who again would win a Nobel Prize in economics, Angus Deaton, wrote a book, The Great Escape: Health, wealth, and the origins of inequality. Central to the problems of this world, inequality. And people are unable to produce, to have a better quality of life because of issues of health care, because of issues of education, and stuff like that. How do we ensure that our people make the great escape so that we can have order in our place? How do we, in effect, get away from these statistics from hell?
Luckily, we are putting our legs to the plow. The growth that we are seeing and the development we are seeing has been fragile. Okay, it's not being inclusive. But at least some things are being done. Look at innovation, look at infrastructure. The railways are beginning to come. The roads are beginning to open. The second Niger Bridge for the first time is getting some traction. So
we can point to some of these funny things. The pace of change into this world is that you are falling further and further behind because others are moving on so fast. I mean, I'll give you a simple example of manufacturing, which is the biggest source of employment for people that are coming on. 30-something odd years ago, China was very weak in manufacturing, very, very weak. In fact, we were stronger than China in manufacturing. Today, China is the workshop of the world. In terms of manufacturing, output, and everything. Now, China is looking at relocating some of its factories and all of that. Even Nigeria is not playing as well in piggybacking into that. So if we go into a post-manufacturing era, and we're not even in on that, we compound the Nigerian problem. So to look at things without looking at quantum leaps probably is not enough.
That's what I was going to say.
Anymore.
Because the truth of the matter is this. The world is actually fast moving forward. And when you talk about the statistics, that how can we improve on it, it's going to be extremely difficult. And let me tell you why, in my own opinion. Because most of the government policy, what you consider today to be policy, is way up and up. It have not really gotten to the bottom line.
Well, we must change our
politics.
Okay. We must change the structure.
No, forget about all
the
the. You're going
the
far.
viability of the Nigerian state. You know, my point is, like accountants will say, you either look at the revenue side or you look at the expenditure. The expenditure side are so gaping, population is growing, the inflation is leaping, yet we are mono product. And even that within that mono product, we are hanging on a balance in the sense that I hope, let me make this point. Yes. I hope all things will continue to be equal. The Niger militants will continue to be, to be at peace. If anything happens in that direction, so what that takes us to, we need a proper federalism and proper restructuring.
I hear you.
So that we can begin to harness like China, harness like we have in Malaysia.
Fine, but listen to this. The best way to curb these statistics that we say to be against Nigeria is the policy, whomever that framed the policy of this feeding that it seems to be that you are against. That is, okay, yes, that is a foundation, because if the children can be fed, guess what? The next statistic that's going to come to our schools will be that there are children at school. Because what you are seeing today, most people are not being captured.
So now, so what's you just like what Prof said, how are we moving? If, for instance, the present government is looking at the fact that maybe PDP inherited in terms of power 3,000 megawatts and got it to maybe 4,000 or 5,000, they are saying they are getting it to 7,000. That means by the time they come back, or any person that comes back will also add 2. Do you understand? You're adding, and then even the 2 or whatever you're adding is not being felt. Now, Nigeria has one of the best people in terms of industry, in terms of resourcefulness. All you need is some of these systems. Let the electricity work. And I can tell you, industries without state support can all come up.
If I ask you a question today,
let the schools, let the education system work properly, so that you have proper people trained as engineers.
Prof made a point that we need to jump, and I don't think there's anybody that says that, look, in fact, we should more than do a pole vote. I agree. But let's be fair.
So this should be 10,000.
Let's be fair.
Yes.
We knew where we were in terms of electricity generation before the present regime came. It's moved to about 3,560.
You see, that's argument.
Just hang on. When it comes to statistics, just listen to me. Just
you understand?
Listen to me. I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's enough. I'm saying there has been a quantum relative marginal movement, and we must accept that is going on.
That is fantastic adjectivizing. Quantum relevant management.
If that did not happen, if we were where we were, now we'll be in the caves. We'll be living in the caves, and that is the point.
But you know,
and that is the point I make it.
Let's look at it practically, because this issue of PDP telling us that time they had 5,000 or they had 3,000 is not relevant to me. What is relevant to me is in 2000. How many hours do I have current or power in my house? In 2005, how many? In 2007, in 2012, and today, what do I have? And this is a question that will be answered across board.
If somebody comes to Nigeria today to ask how many households in Nigeria has electricity, what do you think the statistic will be? Household in Nigeria.
Is it that has or that has functional one?
That when you talk about electricity, so that is how statistics comes, isn't it?
Those capacities are being looked at. I mean, no matter how you look at it, I agree with you in a snail speed, because
well, you know, unfortunately, time is not our best friend. About 12, 15 years ago, I used to host an annual conference on power at the Lagos Business School. And I recall Lieli Moke, who was then advisor on power before he became governor of Cross River State of Obasanjo, came with Joe Makoju to one of those. And I remember from their own presentations, they were suggesting that on a per capita basis, if we were to have the level of per capita power the South Africans had at that time, Nigeria needed to generate 88,000 megawatts. That's 15 years ago.
we are snail speed now.
That's movement. Okay. We gotta go. Let's pray that these statistics from hell are not as difficult to reach heaven as the bosom of Abraham and the Lazarus scenario. Otherwise, we are in serious trouble. So, follow us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. They're scrolling. We'll see you next week.